This episode is brought to you by the Canyon Speed Max. Ridden by world champions, the Speed Max is crafted from the highest grades of carbon and built with the finest components available. With 0% APR and HSA and FSA eligible. Now is the perfect time to head over to canyon.com and get your bike shipped directly to you. Get your Speed Max today at www.canyon.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slow Twitch podcast. My name's Kevin McKinnon. I'm a senior editor with slowtwitch.com. And today we're sitting down with two very important figures in Canadian triathlon, the men who built Multisport Canada from the ground up. John Salt founded the series in 2001. I think I got that right, John. Determined to bring Ontario triathletes a series built around community, camaraderie, and the athlete experience. He spent nearly 2 decades at the helm, helping tens of thousands of athletes cross their first finish lines and launching careers that reached some athletes into the professional ranks. Among his proudest achievements is an event that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today, the Barrelman Triathlon, a half-distance race set against the backdrop of Niagara Falls that John envisioned as something truly special, a race with a big race feel around one of the world's most famous attractions with that same sense of camaraderie that we've learned to enjoy at the Multisport series that keeps people coming back year after year. And also joining us is Jason Verma. He started up with the Multisport series in the earliest days and has grown alongside the series and bringing his own background as a competitive age group athlete, an Ironman finisher, an adventure racer, a mountain biker. But what the heck else have you done, Jason? Come on. And he brought all of that experience to the operational side of the sport. And together they have built Multisport Canada into the largest triathlon series in the country. John and Jason, welcome to the Slow Twitch podcast. Hopefully I was somewhat accurate in all of what I was talking about there.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Well, Jason's also a very competitive cross-country skier and now involved. It shows you he's getting older, Kevin. He's now involved coaching his 2 children who are in their late teens, one of which, Anna, who's a very, very competitive skier, and I think she has some aspirations. But that's Sarah and Jason have done a great job in coaching these kids.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, and actually, Jason, didn't I see, was it your son who was competing at Gravenhurst a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time from his cross-country ski training to do a little bit of triathlon on an old bike he bought from my brother, and we threw some old aero bars I had lying in the bin around and gave it a go.
And I do believe that he's like probably everyone else in probably the Salt family and the McKinnon family and the Verma family. As soon as he was done, he had to go and get working at the event, right? So no
Pretty
rest
well.
for...
I can remember.
That's awesome.
Remember Anna, who's now 16, 17, Jason?
17.
Anna being about 6, I think, when she was handing out medals at all of our various races and working the aid station at the finish line. And just like a Verma, was in control of the entire situation. So.
Yes. I think anyone who has been to a multi-sport race is all too familiar with the Verma pre-race meetings and basically getting told exactly where you're going and what you're doing and in no uncertain terms.
Yeah, and don't miss any turns when you're out there.
No. Well, it'd be hard to do. You guys do a really great job of setting up the courses. I have been, attending multi-sport events for, I'm not even sure how long, over the years. We, back with the Mac Attack Kids Club, we used to always have a big group that would get out to many of the events. So I've known Jason and John for a lot of years. I've seen John actually probably more in Roth over the last 5 or 6 years, I think, than I have in Ontario. But yeah, certainly I've known you guys for a long time and great to have you here today. So, John, I'll start with you if I could. what was it that got you inspired to get started with, initially, we'll talk about the Barrelman shortly, but, initially the Multisport series, because like you had a real job, like you were a grown up. You didn't need to do any of this crazy triathlon stuff.
Yeah, well, some people might still debate whether I'm actually a grown-up or not, Kevin, but yeah, Jason's nodding his head. Yeah, I've been in the corporate world for 20 odd years, retail banking side of things, and I guess I'd done fairly well there, and got to a point where there was two senior fellows in a marketplace, and they wanted one of them to go away, and they gave me a check to go away, and I went and did that, and I had some time to think about what I wanted to do, and at that point, I was racing myself, and I was reasonably competitive. I enjoyed the sport, and as you mentioned, the camaraderie that's in the sport, and things were changing in the Ontario market at that point in time. The one series that had been around forever, Trisport, Graham Fraser, of course, started that back in the day, and Graham had built that to be a very successful series, and there'd been a change over there. Graham was starting to concentrate on the Ironman brand, and I thought, thinking back to my corporate world and thinking about customer experience, which was one of the areas that I focused on in that world. Is there a way to maybe make the experience a little bit better? Can we do something that's different, that'll differentiate a race series and make it all about fun and the camaraderie side of things? And a friend of mine, Mike Buck, who was a professional triathlete in Ontario at that point in time, had spoken about that a little bit. And I was at the Collingwood race, which wasn't part of that, was an independent race at the time, Collingwood Half. And I was at the Collingwood race, actually watching my wife Ann compete that day. And I was talking to a few people, and they said, "Yeah, I wish there was a series out there that, back to the old days when things were fun and that." And I got in the car to drive home from Collingwood, and I phoned Mike, and I said, "Mike, we're going to start a triathlon series." And Mike's reaction was, "No, we're not, John. What are you crazy?" I said, No, I think that there is a place for a series where it's about fun, where it's about family, where it's about having a good time and creating a really good customer experience. And that's how it started. So that was in 2000, summer of 2001, and I started working on a business plan and a model and things like that, and we went from there.
And what were you sort of make it sound like, oh, okay, I just put the business plan together and off we go. I'm guessing it wasn't quite that simple. What were the kind of big challenges that you had to go through to get this off and rolling?
Well, for me personally, I mean, as much as I was a competitor and understood triathlon, I really did not understand the intricacies and the complexities in logistics. And that's where Mike was a big help. And we sat down and talked through things. He said, "You realize what you're going to have to go through." And that dovetails into, now you have to find locations, and those locations have to work logistically. And you have to find locations where the communities are going to be welcoming. I mean, the whole idea was let's create something where people are going to have a good time and they're going to be welcome at the event, and it's a great location. So right away, that was, okay, well, how can we do this? How do you go about looking for all these locations? And so we sort of fumbled my way around that a little bit. Mike had some ideas. There was an event that you used to bring the Mac Attack group to in Lakeside, just outside of London, Ontario. He had been out for a ride one day, and he took a turn and said, "Oh, hang on, this would be a great spot for a triathlon." A year later, when I said to Mike, "Let's start this series," he said, "Well, I think I've got our first race venue." So there was the logistics, there was the community relations that you have to develop. There was equipment. I mean, we didn't have any of that. There was the whole issue of vehicles to tow. I mean, it's a very complex thing. So yeah, I make it sound very simple. Let's just start a series and we'll do it. But there were so many things. And to further answer that question, I mean, the real, and I'm not saying this just because he's here. I've said this for years and years. If it wasn't for Jason, I don't think Multisport Canada would be the series that it is today. Jason he's like a logistical savant. He can take a look at a race venue, and it's almost like it's in 3D. He sees the events, he sees the customers, he sees the logistics, he sees all of it coming together. And in that first year that we had our races, Jason, I knew Jason from the University of Western Ontario. I used to work out there, and Jason was a student then. And Mike of course, knew Jason as well. And I think it was Mike who said, Jason, can you come out and give us a hand setting up these races and what have you? And he did that. And the following year I said, Jason, I think I need you to come and work with me at Multisport Canada.
And so, Jason, what was it that attracted you to, or it sounds like you maybe weren't totally attracted or more coerced into coming out, maybe not so much coerced, but what was it that, excited you about being involved with Multisport in those early days?
Yeah, there were some close friends for sure, and what you would do for a close friend. I also think that I quickly came to enjoy the puzzle that is a race to solve, and all the moving pieces, and the satisfaction of doing that sort of thing well, and better every time. So I would say that what drew me in is what keeps me around.
And I guess I'm fast forwarding a bunch of years, but actually I don't think we need to. What is it that sets the Multisport series apart in your mind, Jason? Like what, from day one, you're out there, you've got at that point still, the Tri-Sport series, the Subaru Tri series was a big deal. So it wasn't an easy, market to be jumping into, I don't think.
Don't think that we did anything in terms of, putting up the bike racks and putting out the signs any better than anyone else. There's a lot of really, really good events in Ontario. I think what John highlighted is we tried to have a more personal touch, that the participants, we like to believe, came to see that there were real caring people behind the scenes who were willing to sort of put themselves out in front, not to be the center of attention, but to be the person that says, hey, we're going to take really good care of you and show you an amazing time today. And I think that example creates or helps to create some of the camaraderie that's felt at the events. Okay. And I would say it's more of a feel that we try to create rather than, we've got more science than the next guy. It's far from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
A little bit, Kevin. It's a story I've told many times. One of the things I would do is stand at the finish line, because if you want to understand whether your athlete customer had a good day or a bad day, stand at the finish line and shake their hands. A lot of people will tell you, I had a great day, it was fantastic, and what have you. It's the people who said, well, this is what happened to me out there. And the fact that you could stop and listen and talk to them about that. And if they had a real serious concern that I couldn't address right away, Jason was there as well, and he could talk to them about the logistical side. And we have had people over the years who say, you changed my life. And of course, the response to that is, we didn't change your life at all. You changed your life. We just happened to give you the venue to do that. You did all the training, you did all the work. And to what Jason just said, if you have a place that is going to give you that feeling of camaraderie, of almost a family type atmosphere, it's easy to change your life.
Yeah. So can you sort of run me through I guess it's 25 years of the Multisport series now? Like how many races did you start off with? Where are you at now? What sort of numbers do you guys see?
So, Jason, was it 8 or 10 the first year?
Well, it wasn't quite that many. I would say that for the ease of clarity or some because we don't remember. I would say a half dozen-ish races in the first year. And I often comment to people that and most triathlon series, I would say would be like this, have retired probably more races maybe than they currently host.
Yeah.
As markets change, your races get bigger, they outgrow venues. But yeah, I would say that it was half dozen in the first couple of years, grew to 10 plus in the first 10 years. And then over the past 10 years, the ones that have been the most popular have stayed around. And those are the ones that we've kept to this day, some of which include, as John said, Lakeside, one of our very first ones, and Wasaga Beach, which were, I would call them probably the anchors of the series in the early days.
Right.
And we also had Kids of Steel races at most of the events in the first couple of years.
Yep.
Those were phased out gradually simply because the adult series was growing. We actually, within about 6 or 7 years of starting the series, we had surpassed the competition, which we were proud of. But it's nice to talk about camaraderie and family atmosphere and what have you. However, athlete safety has to be number one. And when you get to the point where you have, we got to over 10,000 people over a couple of years there. When you have that many people coming to an event and you have multiple races going on over 2 days, to then add the kids events where, you've got all the different age groups. So each transition, each race is a totally different distance and what have you. We slowly phased the Kids Steel races out, and in fact, the kids race series started with Brad and Tara, and we worked with them, I think, a little bit to help them get their kids Tri series going. But yeah, as Jason said, there's ebbs and flows of that, and those were that was one of the other things that really caused us to take a look at, all right, how many events do we need? How many should we have? And keep everybody safe. So, we were at our heyday. It was at about a little over 10,000 athletes over 10 races for a few years. And you change venues because the community needs you to change or what have you. So that all adds to it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so when does the Barrelman event come into the picture? And how does it fit into the multisport world, or does it?
Well, yeah, that goes back to, I guess if we go right back to the idea, we'd have to go to 2009, 2010. And as you mentioned, as you introduced us, you and I have probably seen each other more times in Roth than we have in North America. When I was training, I was at one of the training camps Manager Gray used to run, and I was talking about wanting to have an event that would differentiate itself in Ontario, one that was a longer distance event, whether it was going to be an iron distance, but then everybody called it Ironman. 70.3 wasn't in the nomenclature at that point in time, so it was either a half or an Ironman. And Jason and I have talked about trying to develop something that was really special and unique. And actually, Nigel was the one who said, he says, "Well, geez, you should take a look at the challenge race." And I said, "What the hell's challenge? I don't know what that is." Oh, it used to be Ironman Germany, and then Ironman Europe, I believe. And Felix Walschoffer, who has this race in Roth, which is now, at that point, I think it had become, other than Kona, which he now surpassed, was the largest Ironman distance event in the world. So I said, "Oh, okay." And I did some research and realized what Felix has built there. His father started it, and he built it. And I picked up the phone and I called Felix in Germany, and I said, I like what I see here, and here's what I would like to do with my business partner Jason. are you interested in working with anybody over here in North America? He said, well, actually, we're starting to think about that. So well, why don't you come over and do the race, come and do Roth, and we'll sit down and talk. And once you have done the race and you've experienced it, then you'll know if it works. So I did that. And we had a conversation for a couple of hours after participating in Roth, which is, I think, the best race in the world. Absolutely the best race in the world. And then in 2011, Jason and I had already started talking about Niagara Falls as a location. We had an event in Welland, and I was mentioning to the mayor of Welland in the off season when we would do some planning. I said, I'd really like this. We've got this idea for this great race with the location. And he said, what about Niagara Falls? He said, well, a swim would be a little difficult there. But then we realized, Jason said, well, John, it's only 20 odd K down the road to Niagara Falls. We've got a location here in Welland. Let's take a look at that. So fast forward, we'd done some preliminary work, and Felix came over in 2011 and spent a few days with us. And we did a tour around Niagara Falls, what turned out to be probably 90% of the Barrelman course that we started in the first couple of years. And that's how it started. But it took us another 3 years to get the approvals, multiple meetings with the community and the stakeholders in the community to get the approval for that event. It took 3 years. So 2014 was the first year.
And I still don't understand, why don't you just keep it simple and just have everyone swim right at the falls? Like, it would just be so much easier. You could have one transition area and, a little bit of a challenge.
We played around with that idea, but Jason, he's a bit nitpicky. He doesn't want to do that.
And so was there ever, like, were you looking at trying to do a full distance race then? Or was it always in your vision that this was going to be a half?
Well, it was always our vision that it was going to be a half, simply because of logistical issues. You yourself know, as an athlete, railroad crossings are a no-no. They're a taboo on any sort of a bike course. And down in that part of the world, to go from Welland, get 180K in and get over to Niagara Falls, it'd be one huge loop, which you could do, but I think there was 4 or 5 train crossings that we would have to go across. So that wasn't going to work. When Felix came over, he at that point really wanted to have an Ironman distance event in Canada. If he was going to come to North America with Challenge, he wanted that first event to be an Ironman distance event. And we talked for days and days, and we just said, Jay, it's just not going to work. You don't know when a train is going to come through. It's as simple as that. And the
Right.
last thing you want is to have 50 or 100 or 200 athletes at a railway crossing when a freight train's going through that takes 10 or 15 minutes. That's not exactly the race experience you want anybody to have. So that was a no there. And so in our minds, it was always a half, to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Barrelman, you guys work your way through. I'm guessing, Jason, some of the, you're the logistics dude, probably having to deal with a lot of the stuff in terms of permits and all of that. I'm guessing getting permits in Niagara Falls is not easy for multiple reasons. Like, there's parks all over the place there. You've got this huge tourist area. So can you just talk a little bit about some of those challenges?
I would say that the Niagara Parks Commission, which is the sort of entity that governs or oversees and operates the Niagara Parks, they're actually quite a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
As an organization, it's their mandate to bring people to the falls for great experiences. Where you get into areas that's not their core mandate is what I would say regular municipalities. And to them, a triathlon isn't their core business and not something they deal with events of that magnitude, whereas the Parks Commission deals with large-scale events all the time. So it's often that places that aren't as familiar with our industry and what order is it? It's swim, bike, and then run. And I say that half in jest because when you have a group that you're introducing the concept of a large scale event to, and it's a very unique large scale event in a triathlon, it does take some time for people to wrap their heads around it. And it's a moving target. It's not like it's a concert or some sort of, say, large scale exhibition or fair. It's static. It moves. There's times where it's really busy, and there's times where it's tailing off, and then it's gone. So it's just different than most local stakeholders have seen before. And I think that's, to John's recount of the number of years that it took. It just took people a little bit of time to wrap their head around the fact that it's not wall-to-wall bikes all day.
Yeah. So I have been to the Barrelman a few times. It's always a tough time of year for me in September with Worlds and all that kind of stuff. But I have been to the event a few times. Can you talk a little bit about the first years and what went well and the obviously the race must be a success. It's still happening now. So can you talk a little bit about how that all came through?
Yeah, I think that, it doesn't matter what race you're putting on, whether it's a give it a try or whether it's a race as long as the Barrelman is. You never know what you're going to get on a race day. You've done all the planning, all the logistics, all the work, but you just never know what's going to happen. And over the years, we've had some weather issues. That comes with the territory. I think Jason will correct me if I'm wrong. I would say this will be the 11th year if you cut out the COVID years. Okay. I would say that in the 10 years that we've produced Barrelman, that the one issue that we thankfully have gotten rid of 2 years ago, the one issue was there every single year with the roads for the bike. And there were years where Jason, with a week to go, was changing the bike course because, and as Jason said, like the municipalities down there are amazing to work with. They are so responsive. They try to understand. And I can tell you also, just as a little aside, Niagara Parks Commission, an event like Barrelman, to us, it's a big event. To them, it's a small event. And we take up a lot of geography in Niagara Falls itself.
Right.
The fact that they have put up with us all for all these years and have been so helpful and given us such great guidance is just beyond the pale. It's amazing. But anyway, back to the situation at hand, which was every year there was a construction issue. You've got a lot of roadway. There's frost heave every year in Southern Ontario. So there was always last minute changes to the bike course. And in the first 3 years, we actually did have a run course going through the city of Niagara Falls. And in that, probably the first 2 years, but certainly the first year, there were sections of the bike or the run course where there's one particular intersection which basically has 5 roadways coming to this set of lights, and this is where the athletes are coming down this steep hill and making a right turn onto Lakeshore. It was a gong show.
Busy.
Traffic and pedestrian traffic and what have you. It went really well, but I can tell you, you talk about continual concern, like, okay, are we going to get the radio call that there's an issue? Is there an issue? Because as I said earlier, you can have the best planned race in the world. Race day is when you really understand if the logistics are going to get you through. And Jason did get us through. The other complexity, I think, with that course is aid stations. When you're trying to get proper nutrition out to athletes, and every year it seems that we've had our event. Doesn't matter if it's it's always the third week in September, so it can fall anywhere between, let's say, the 12th of September to the 20th or so. It doesn't matter. It's always like 33 degrees down there. I mean, so you're constantly looking for ice and water and what have you. So it's race day logistics. I don't know, Jason, would you add anything else to that?
Yeah, it does seem like at that time of the year, prior to we'll call it the more straightforward and compact bike course that we have now, road construction, that's the tail end of the road construction season, and all the projects that they never got to in the summer tended to pile up. So, but I would say that I think the biggest challenge with Barrelman, it's a bit of a joint logistics exercise between the participants and us as the organizers, differently than maybe most events are. And I guess that's also part of the adventure for an athlete, is that they'll drive to Welland on the Saturday to drop their bike off, but then start their day in Niagara Falls on the Sunday morning. There's some cool camaraderie, which is also part of the logistics of the event, where we bus people from Niagara Falls back to Welland. And then there's the logistics of getting their baggage in real time, like their shoes in real time while they are swimming and in the early portion of the bike, over to Niagara Falls and placed under their rack. So there's just more moving pieces than an average event, which we talk about it. It's like the magic behind the magic. And that's the kind of thing that participants never have to see, because they're enjoying the event at the time. But yeah, those I would say were the things that, working out those best laid plans and continuing each year to sort of see how they can be more robust. That's part of the fun, and it creates that unique adventure for the participant. So I think that's for me at least what makes it worth it.
And I would add to that. Again, if Jason and his team do an amazing job on the logistics side, given the point-to-point nature of the event, the last-minute changes to the bike courses and what have you, I'm sure there's some people out there who didn't have the greatest day, but all the surveys we've done, all of the reactions that we've had at the finish line when they're shaking athletes' hand, people actually really rave about this event. They finish go, wow, like, this is one of the best events I've ever been at. I mean, it's so well organized. All of these things, I mean, people get excited on race day, especially when you're doing a half iron distance event or more. I mean, it's a big challenge for a lot of people, and it's a goal, and, they're very, very happy. So, of course, they're high with all of that. But even the post-race emails that we receive saying that, this is just one of the best events that I've ever been at. It doesn't matter. And I think that it goes back to our core beliefs and our core values. Make it about the customer experience. Make it all about the camaraderie. And Jason and his team help that come to fruition with the logistical challenges and taking care of them.
And I guess and which leads into one of the things I really wanted to talk to you guys about. You put on a great event. You put on an event in like this unbelievable destination spot, right? Like, I'm on my way to Europe next week. When people ask me where I live, I often say I'm about an hour north of Niagara Falls, and they go, "Oh, okay, I know where that is," right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's even more a better point for them than Toronto. But you haven't ever been able to really get the numbers I would think that you would want at the race, and it is a challenge. And we've seen this USA Triathlon last year. I think in their surveys were pointing out that the non-Ironman branded half distance events in the United States have all but disappeared. There's very, very few of them hanging on, and so I think you guys are living that challenge. Sorry, I keep using the word challenge, but living that that issue of how do you put on a successful half distance event that doesn't have an Ironman 70.3 next to it.
I would say there's probably more than two, but there's two components to this. One is all the things we've been talking about, and that is the atmosphere you create, the event, logistics, and the race day. And then, it's location. It's, as you say, You tell people over in Europe, yeah, I'm about an hour away from Niagara Falls, so I know where that is. If you take a look at the data, and we've done this over the years, whether it's Ironman branded events or not, races that are in locations that are not easily recognizable by name, or don't have the cachet or the additional amenities around the location, such as Niagara Falls. I mean, kids parks. There's all sorts of things to do now.
Yeah.
Or a Toronto, let's say, or New York City. I mean, okay, everybody knows where those places are, and they also know there's all sorts of other stuff to do there.
Well, truly destination events.
Exactly. Whereas, some of the events, I mean, if you go back, as we all do, you go back 10, 15, 20 more years or so, look at the events, Tupper Lake, Musselman, all of those of independent races. The location didn't matter because it was the venue where triathlon back then, it was about the camaraderie and the fun and everything else. And those events lasted because of that. And then the change came about with Ironman, and it became about location, but also, I mean, they've done an excellent job, obviously, in terms of branding, and their race experience is a very good race experience. But whether it's Ironman or independent, what you've seen over the years, or we've seen with the data is, if the venue is not in a location that is a destination place, eventually, even for the Ironman races, they might unveil that they've taken over a race XYZ over here. And in the first couple of years, the numbers go up right away. It's now an Ironman 70.3, or it's an Ironman, boom, you're looking at 2,000 plus people immediately. But if you take a look at the numbers over the years for those non-destination venues, the numbers start to go like this. And I think to answer your question, I think what's helped Barrelman be what it is today and still successful is, one, the logistics, as I mentioned, and the atmosphere that we provide. But two, it's Niagara Falls. I mean, it's something that we do concentrate on when we're communicating with our athlete database. Come and bring the family, have a good time, stay for 2, 3, 4 days. You can do that. It's really easy.
Right.
So I think that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be my answer.
Yeah. Jason, any other thoughts or any thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, as John said, Ironman puts on amazing races. They have an incredibly strong brand. And I think everybody wants to go to the big show in a way. And it's to those that, say, haven't experienced an event before. If you've done one that's from the same company, think your favorite restaurant, coffee shop, what have you, there's a measure of predictability and confidence with what you think would be the experience the next time you go to a different location through the same brand. So I think there's a degree of confidence when someone's looking to invest that amount of time and energy in training and so on and so forth. We see a lot of folks that participate in Barrelman that, of course, know us from our other Ontario events. And I think that's where folks have a lot of confidence coming to do Barrelman that have experienced one of our events before. And the more people we talk to and the more that learn about it, we cast the net very slowly, but maybe a little bit more broadly each year.
Yeah.
I think Karen, sorry, the one thing that just occurred to me, the one thing that hurt everyone was COVID. That hurt a lot of it. Well, there's quite a few event management companies just don't exist anymore because of COVID. And I won't hesitate to say that, Multisport Canada was potentially in that grouping. But again, Jason and his team have done a great job, and not only bringing back the series after COVID, but growing the series and maintaining that. With Barrelman, what's happened there, and it's changing, thankfully, but what happened there was that athletes did not want to go across the board because of COVID, especially the athletes from the United States. Why that is, I'm not sure. I've spoken with other people with various other companies in the industry, And that was a big deal. If they had a venue in Canada, and the vast majority of their athlete database is U.S. based, they saw a real downturn in the number of athletes who would come across the border going north. Not so much south, but if you take a look at market size, U.S., Canada, I mean,
Right.
that's a pretty easy equation, right? Thankfully, that's turning around. We used to average about 25% U.S.-based athletes, and that dipped down post-COVID. You were talking about 7 or 8%. Now that's rebounding back up again, and we're quite happy with the results. But that was a big, huge thing too. And I think there was a number of independent races that did not survive COVID.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, yeah, I guess for you guys, what are the steps? Obviously, we're here today talking about this event on Slow Twitch, and I'm guessing that the vision is to try and get more American competitors up.
Yeah, we'd absolutely love to do that. And I think the changes, and maybe not everybody's aware of this, but the changes that we made to the course, we think, well, certainly in Ontario, in terms of closed roads and access, it's a standout for sure. The race, the bike course, the 90K used to loop down from Welland down into the southwest of Ontario and do this loop of about 60 odd K and then go back through Welland into Niagara Falls. And again, we talked about the construction issues and what have you. And we had spoken with years with the Niagara Parks Commission about, it'd be great if we had some sort of a loop system down here closer to Niagara Falls, and it would make it better. And that changed 2 or 3 years ago, because there's a section on down in Niagara Falls on the lakeshore where it's nice residential area.
Yeah.
The paving is pristine. It's like there's no frost heave in Niagara Falls. I don't get it. Maybe the residents down there have got a magic formula for the asphalt, but there's no frost heave. It's still pristine down there. And we worked with the Niagara Parks Commission a couple of years ago, and they said, okay, let's try your idea of this looped course. So where before it was Welland, big huge loop, and then going to Niagara Falls, it's Welland straight over to Niagara Falls, and you get on the parkway, and you basically doing 2.5 loops down there. It worked extremely well last year. We've got some changes that we're going to make this year to enhance that. One of the things that athletes, we all get dumb on the bike, and counting even 2.5 loops seems to be a challenge for some people. So we did have a screen out there last year that told people as they went by, this is what loop you're on. Unfortunately, the sun was in such a position that wasn't working as well as we had hoped, but that's all changed. We've got new equipment for that. So one of the things that I would say to anybody, especially our friends down in the United States, if you want to come up and ride on a bike, we'll swim in a large swimming pool. I mean, the Welland Canal, the waterway there, it's in this huge, large swimming pool. Get on the bike and just go straight through on, and all the roads leading to Welland have been repaved in the last 2 years as well, to Niagara Falls from Welland have been repaved. So you're riding on 20 odd K of repaved road, and then you're on for 60 Ks of this looped course that's closed, no vehicular traffic, and then on to the run course in Niagara Falls. I mean, the venue, from an athlete perspective, I don't think they could get any better. So I would hope that might be enough of an attraction.
Enough of a draw.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys, like so many events, have created almost a little festival atmosphere, right? Like, so this year there's an Olympic distance event as well. And then, of course, everyone has an aqua bike, I think, or not everyone, but a lot of events. All the smart events are doing aqua bikes for the folks whose knees don't let them run anymore. And then relays, right? So there really is an opportunity for lots of people to become involved. And I'm guessing, again, this is all part of just trying to get more people to the event.
It is. And the beauty of the Olympic distance event, once we had the looped course, it was a no-brainer. We had always spoken about the possibility of an Olympic event because of this festival type atmosphere we've always tried to create. But as it turns out, to ride from Welland to Kingsbridge Park is 40 kilometers. So they can now go straight through. The half iron athletes are on that course doing the loop on the bike. There's no interference one way or the other, no interference at all between the cyclists. Olympic distance athletes go straight through. And last year, our first year, it was extremely successful. So yeah, that has been something else that we've added. And as you said, the aqua bike and the relay. The relays actually are growing in part because of the great job that Jason and Carolyn Simons, who works with Jason on the marketing and communication side of things, they've done a great job reaching out to local groups and clubs who are not even triathlon clubs, and they've become engaged in triathlon through the series, and because of that, being introduced to the Olympic event. And of course, what we're hoping is people will come experience Barrelman at the Olympic distance and go, wow, this is so great. I've got to come back and do it as a half.
Jason, just to follow up on that, how would you say, John had talked about, COVID being such a challenge. Where do you see the sport like now? Like how do you feel triathlon is doing these days?
Well, it's a layered question, I think, with a layered answer. Because our series does everything from, we'll call it quarter of Olympic distance, some call it super sprint, some call it try, we call it give it a try, all the way up to Olympic distance, and then Barrelman sort of as a separate. That's not one group of customers or participants. That's a whole lot and a whole big range. So we also host a running event, which that was one of the first events that really seemed to strongly rebound post-COVID. And It makes sense that a lot more people got outdoors and got active, or different new people. And we've seen that sort of filter its way up the food chain in terms of initially sprint events being stronger. Olympic events have now, in many cases, surpassed sprint events in terms of numbers in our series. But it takes a long time, or it should, at least in my view, take a few years to work your way up to do something like Barrelman. And when many people who were active participants during COVID went on to other things, it takes a while to regrow the market at that size, especially in the area that we tend to draw from. So the short answer is triathlon's strong, in my view, right now at a sprint and Olympic level in Ontario. We're so fortunate to have the number of possible venues that we do. I haven't done an analysis on this, but I would say, and you'd probably have a pretty good sense of this, that we probably have more venues in Ontario within 90 minutes of the GTA than most other places our size from a population level.
Yeah.
So folks have a lot of different options. Most weekends, there's an event somewhere within 90 minutes of the GTA from early June all the way through to Barrelman in the third week of September. So there's lots of choice. There's lots of ways people can get into it. And we're definitely seeing that. But yeah, it takes time if you're being smart about it to do a sprint, learn how to race that well, do your first Olympic, learn how to race that well, come to Barrelman, do it as your first half, which we believe it's an excellent race for that, because it's arguably it's relatively flat, and there's lots of support along the way, and especially with multi-loop courses, you feel a little bit more camaraderie rather than out there on your own. So hopefully that's sort of where I see things sitting.
Yeah. Michael Dulst from Super Tri a few years ago talked about really wanting, the whole goal with him for Super Tri and putting on these shorter events, like they don't want to touch anything longer. He wants, he said to me in Montreal, I really want to make short course triathlon cool again.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there hope for that? Can we do that?
Well, and again, I would say that depends on who you're talking to in terms of who thinks it's cool. So many people that come out that are active, not maybe doing it on a fancy triathlon bike, that are into all sorts of different things. They find it really, really cool. It's a highlight of their year and their summer off. And if it's a first time or even a first time racing with us, once you get to the more experienced pointy end of the stick, yeah, sure. I think that arguably it's more entertaining to watch something that is shorter, faster, and done a little bit quicker. Long distance races are great, and they're great in a condensed format, I think, on television. But I mean, I know the guys are going faster than they used to in our day, but still 7 hours of watching something, that's commitment.
Absolutely. What about, we talk about it back in our day, right? So people used to do 9, 10 triathlons a season regularly. There used to be this big wave of trying to qualify for the World Championships.
Yep.
How I know you guys put on a number of qualifiers for the Worlds.
Yep.
Where does that fit into the picture? Do those events, putting on nationals in Canada used to scare people away. It used to be the smallest event of the year. But has that changed a little bit, do you think?
I can take that one, John, if you want.
We do have qualifiers at Barrelman for Worlds in 2027. And I know Jason in the series, there's some qualifying races. I'll let Jason talk to that.
I would say, Kevin, that so some of the analysis that John did on the series, this would have been starting sort of 2010s, where we thought to ourselves, well, like the customer group that's coming out, it seems like it's changing. Okay. It seems like it's changing from what you described, which we saw in our early days. Numbers grew, but how did those numbers grow? And it seemed like they were growing more from people that were doing a couple of races this summer, the vast majority. Some that might do a race with us and a race somewhere else. But it really didn't seem like it was growing because the same number of people were doing more and more. It was more people doing a triathlon, which we looked at as amazing. Yep. Because that says it's a healthy sport. It's not a sport that is sort of collapsing in on itself and becoming more dense. It's a sport that's becoming more broad. With that said, if you are looking to work your way up distance-wise, that does require people that have a little bit more commitment of time. And so what the numbers North American-wise have done on a half level, I think we're seeing some of that rebound, to John's point, but it's a lot more average folks that seem like they're just out to have a good time with friends.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is.
I say average in a very, very good way, not in any sort of way where it's not. That's the best part of, I think, our events.
I think it. To talk that a little bit more. Around that time, as Jason said, we started to realize that there was more people, perhaps doing less races, and it was okay. How can we get them to go from 1 or 2 events a year to 5 or 6 of our events? We've got 10 of them, and they're all great venues. But I think a lot of the people who participate now, it's just about having fun. And if you have venues that are fun and a great place to be and hang out, then going to 1 of those or 2 of those a year, great. And I think that's what's happened in the sport, which is great because more people are exposed to it. And we see the same. I mean, we see a lot of people come back to Barrelman every year. I mean, there's a large number come back every year. But we also see, over the years, we've seen that churning through. People say, okay, great. You do it once or twice, go off and do something else. Because I think it's the nature of the beast, those longer distance events, you want to experience more of those.
Mm-hmm. And travel.
I guess I would add the travel aspect of it. And I would add that in terms of, we were talking earlier, just thought about this, to our American friends. don't forget, Barrelman and the accommodations and everything else you do costs you 30% less because of the exchange rate. So you can take a look at the race entry fee and say, okay, let's take 30% off that. And the hotel accommodations, which Niagara Falls, whether it's campgrounds up to luxury hotels, the whole gamut is there. Take off 30% from there. So they can come up and have, back to the fun aspect of it, come up, have fun, have their family there, and participate in a great event.
Well, I think obviously you guys are looking forward to another great year of the Barrelman event. Good luck with all of the rest of the Multisport series events in between. I'm guessing, there's lots of race directors who feel like one race is enough, and you've probably got eight or nine to go still, Jason, before you get there. So,
well, that's one of the benefits that I have now, Kevin, having retired from being at the events in 2018. I get to be one of those race directors who goes to one a year and have a great time.
There you go.
This is my look of jealousy. Ready?
Yeah, I've seen you at the events. You're not even remotely jealous. You're happier than a pig in whatever. I won't use the word. So at race sites. So I think everyone is doing just fine. Well,
Right.
Hey, John and Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And as I said, best of luck with the Barrelman event, all of the other events in the season. And I'm guessing I won't see you in Roth next weekend, John.
No, unfortunately, I actually traded text messages with Felix the other day, wishing him well for I guess it's in 10 days' time. So that's quite a show. I know you'll have a great time there, and it's just always a great weekend. But no, you won't see me there. I'll go to that this year anyway.
All right. Well, he's John Salt, who was just talking. Jason Verma as well from Multisport Canada. I'm Kevin McKinnon with slowtwitch.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to being back with you again soon here on the Slow Twitch podcast.
This episode is brought to you by the Canyon Speed Max. Ridden by world champions, the Speed Max is crafted from the highest grades of carbon and built with the finest components available. With 0% APR and HSA and FSA eligible. Now is the perfect time to head over to canyon.com and get your bike shipped directly to you. Get your Speed Max today at www.canyon.com.